Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Libutti, and today's video is about Autism Independence, cornerstone number 2. There's 4 cornerstones. This is number 2, and it is therapy. Now, there are many different types of therapy out there, right? There's ABA, there's Floortime, RDI, the Sunrise program, and probably others that I don't know about nowadays. So this is really not about choosing the right therapy. What this video is about is choosing the right therapist. And, I met a mom recently, and my son did ABA, I want to say he's 14, so like 12 years ago, and he did it for a couple years, but I never liked ABA because I always felt it was disrespectful to him. I always felt like it was forced and pushed, but it was the only thing that I knew about at the time. And I met this other mom just recently, and her 4.5-year-old is doing ABA, and we started getting into a discussion about ABA. And I was like, oh, no, I don't think it's good. And then she was very protective of it. And what I discovered when we really talked about what was going on with her therapy sessions for her son was the therapist was employing tactics and ways of interacting with her child that to me were very much like the Sunrise program. So the Sunrise program, real quick, is SON, Sunrise program, is this beautiful, respectful, accepting, child-centered program. That was one that I found later that I absolutely adored because it felt good, and we had great progress with the Sunrise program. But anyway, this mom was telling me that no, ABA was great, and she happened to have a really phenomenal therapist. So the point in this is maybe it doesn't matter so much what we're calling the therapy as long as the therapist is a certain kind of therapist. So I have created for you a list of 5 non-negotiable traits or things that a therapist must have to work with your child. And the reason these 5 things are really important is because the relationship that they build with your child is of the most importance. That is, what do we want to do? Our kids don't want to connect with us. We want them to connect with us. We want them to form relationships, but it's really hard for them. So what better way than having a therapist that knows that the relationship is the most important thing in dealing with your child? Okay, so 5 non-negotiable things that every therapist that touches your child should have on board. So the first one is, what does that therapist believe about your child's intellect? Okay, and you can go back over to the communication video if you want to know more about these nonverbal kids that are just finding their voice and showing themselves to be hugely intelligent. So if your therapist doesn't believe that your child is intelligent or has an intact intellect, imagine what that's going to do for your child. Never mind the progress in therapy, but what about their self-esteem? Okay, so every therapist that goes near your child should presume intelligence. The second non-negotiable is a belief in your child's potential. Okay, that therapist has to believe that your child has strengths, interests, and things that they are really, really good at. And the reason that they need to believe that your child has some innate talents and strengths is the expectation level. Okay, the expectation level of therapy changes very dramatically when somebody believes that you're capable or somebody believes that maybe you're not capable. So super important for them to really believe that your child has potential. The third non-negotiable, and I just touched on this a little bit, is that therapist needs to know what your child's strengths and interests are. Okay, so for example, if your child is stimming on sounds or lights or visual stuff, what I did with my child, I was able to look at my child with curiosity and try to understand why he was doing what he was doing. And what I discovered by doing that is he has this unimaginable visual capabilities and unimaginable auditory capabilities. He was able to pick up the notes in different objects and see things that we don't see patterns and things that only his brain, not mine, could pick up on. So that's important. So if your therapist doesn't know your child's strengths, doesn't mean you need to throw them out, but what you need to encourage is a curiosity about the things that your child loves to do over and over, because that may be a clue to what your child's strengths are. So that's the third one. The fourth one is the opposite, sort of. The therapist needs to know what your child's anxieties and fears are. And this is really important because the environment for your child in therapy needs to feel safe. That child has to trust the therapist. So if there's anxieties or fears around doing certain things, or different things coming up throughout the day, whether it's a rigid schedule, needing to know what's next, knowing what the expectations are, knowing that your child is a perfectionist. These are just different ideas. But the therapist really needs to know about the anxieties and fears because, again, it all comes down to relationship. They need to create a safe and warm and inviting environment, because that is going to be what makes your child decide they want to connect with that person, which leads to a relationship development. And finally, this is one that I found to be super important for some of the therapists that have worked with my son, and that is their ability to drop their agenda and go with what your child's doing. So there just may be some days where they're just not going to have a lot of success with whatever it is that they're trying to teach or do, and they have to be able to drop their agenda and let the child direct what needs to happen. All of us have bad days. Sometimes things are super easy for us. Other times it's like, forget it, I don't want to do any of it. So we have to respect our children and let them guide how the day goes. So a super flexible therapist is very important. Okay, so these things are 5 non-negotiable things in a therapist. Again, do they believe in the intellect of your child? Do they believe in your child's potential? Do they know your child's strengths and interests? Do they know your child's anxieties and fears? And finally, are they able to drop their agenda and be flexible based on what your child needs? So Cornerstone number 2, therapy, super important to think about when you are striving for independence for your child with autism someday. I hope this was helpful. Please click on the link below if you want a free PDF. The 4 cornerstones to independence and autism right below. You can also jump over to my website, AndreaLibutti.com. Lots of free resources and blog posts about lots of different topics. So I hope it's something that you can use. I'm here to help you guys. I love this population of autistic individuals, but we need to change what the world knows or believes about these kids. So that's why I'm here, and I hope you'll join me along the way. Thank you.